You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pinkus and André Prue.
Michael.
Hello, André.
How are you?
I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. We've got a bit of a project in front of us today. I pulled up my socks and did some yeoman's work over the past week.
As a yeoman does.
And, I got a chance to touch on one of my favorite wine regions on the planet. I think it's certainly one of the regions that just might be one of the last great values in the wine world.
Kind of unsung?
I'd say unsung, but I think this is something where, it's unsung because we have a monopoly that doesn't have an interest in developing it. I know we have some really great agents. He doesn't sponsor the podcast, but Bernard from Le Sommelier reps some really great producers from Portugal.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about Vinho Verde.
Yeah, Vinho Verde. I would agree with you. It is very much one of those unsung regions where most people think of it as a summertime region, if they think of it at all.
Yeah. I think you said everything that I could say about it, and it's fascinating because, these do work as summer wines. It's 34 degrees. We're sitting outside. We have in our glass the Aveleda Loureiro, one of the entry level. We'll call it entry level, for lack of a better term.
I think these wines are $10, if that.
In and around there at the LCBO, and it's sort of what my introduction to Vinho Verde was.
Correct. Yeah, mine
before having the opportunity in 2017 to go over there, be a judge at the Vinho Verde competition, go back on vacation, and I've fallen deeply in love with a few producers there, but also with the region in general. And we're going to be talking about that throughout the podcast in general. But I
know that when Aveleda wines appear, let's say at the door, which is when I remember them. I hate to say it. It's not something that I immediately go, oh, I need an Aveleda. But when they appear at the door and I throw them in the fridge and I start tasting them again, I'm like, why don't I think of these guys more often? Why don't I think Vinho Verde more often? Obviously I write the rosé report, so rosé is top of mind.
Yeah.
But I get them in my glass and I'm like, I am so happy. I am so summarized at that point because they're so fresh, they're so light, they're easy to drink. The acidity is great.
They're great with food.
They're just a fantastic wine. And as I said, it's not something that I immediately jump to think about, but the moment I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, the slap on the forehead.
Yeah, this was a really nice revisit as well, and I'm really excited. We have 5 wines to taste through today, but I had a chance to sit down with the winemaker, the head winemaker. It's a fairly large winery, and the winemaker is Diogo Campilho. And I know you and I have given our initial thoughts about Vinho Verde, but we're going to let him do most of the talking here. And I asked him to give us just an overview, because who can better talk about Vinho Verde than the Portuguese?
When I talk about Vinho Verde, the first that it comes to my head is a very delicate white wine. We produce more whites than reds and then rosé, so I would say it's around 65% of the entire region is white wines. But when I need, or when I'm doing a dry tasting, when the whites come to my head, they bring the idea of a very light wine, but at the same time with a nice perfume, very elegant, very white flowers, and with a lot of styles that we can do. We can do wines with oak, wines without oak, wines with batonnage. So there's a lot of different wines that we can do. But when I need to talk about the Vinho Verde region to a consumer, normally I try to tell them that when they are tasting our white wines, they are tasting something that is a little bit unique because they're very fresh, very light, but at the same time, gastronomic wines, but very elegant. That's how I would explain the white wines.
You and I, we talked a bit about our own biases. I think that the difference is, I was drawn to some producers that are on great wine lists. So Afros Vino and Anselmo Mendes, which are two producers that I've mentioned on this podcast before. But I was always a bit surprised about how the locals look at the region, and that's something that I asked Diogo to explain. Is from Lisbon to Porto and to the rest of the country, like how do your countrymen look at Vinho Verde?
Vinho Verde in the Portuguese wine market is a wine that has been growing for several years, because when the Portuguese consumer wants to have a nice white wine with a good ratio between price and quality, Vinho Verde, I would say, that is always on the top of the mind. Why? Because 65% of the Vinho Verde wines that you find in the market, they are whites. So during the summer, during the heat waves that we have been suffering for the last years, Vinho Verde is always on the top of the mind. And the good thing about Vinho Verde is you can have them with or without food. So it's a wine that at the same time makes a nice environment.
When I was in the north of Portugal, I ate seafood literally every day. That was part of every dinner that I had while I was there. And I mean, I just think about that trip in 2017, seafood in Vinho Verde. It's a no-brainer. It's kind of like Tidal Bay and the East Coast in Canada.
When I was there, I remember being whisked away by a producer who took me to a dinner. And I remember this big, huge, bowl. It looked like a paella. So I thought, my God, I thought only Spain did this. But it was just a big, huge, copper pot of, it was like a very shallow copper pot. But it was all seafood, like everything in there. Like you just dipped a spoon in and everything came out. The fish, shellfish, whatever else they had in there. And half the time I was like, I don't even recognize this fish, but man, is it delicious. Yeah. And the wine flowed, again, very white.
Yeah. But moving on from the white wines, I'm so glad I made that visit last fall or 2 falls ago in 2024. And you gave me my marching orders before I did this interview that you wanted me to ask about some of the outliers and, the non-white situation of what's happening in Vinho Verde. I don't know about you. When I went in 2017, it felt an awful lot like when I went to California on my first trip, and these producers just like, oh, taste this Pinot Noir. It tastes like Burgundy, and you end up with these syrupy red wines that taste more like Coca-Cola than Pinot. Well, in Vinho Verde, I had the same experience where people were so proud of their red wines, and they were acidic and tannic with no fruit. And I remember just being relatively early in my wine career at that point, being like, is there something I don't get here? But this last visit I took, which was only 7 years later, the quality of the red wines has just exploded. Like, these wines are delicious now. They've got some balance. They've got fruit. They've harnessed in the tannins. They're taking it easier on the extraction. And I had to ask Diogo, like 7 years isn't a lot of time when you're talking about the wine industry. How did things change so quickly?
You touched the crucial points. That is the viticulture part. Vinho Verde is a very rich region in terms of soil, in terms of material organic in the soils. We have a lot of rain during the summer, during the maturation period. So it's crucial to have a modern viticulture to be sure that the bunches, that the grapes, at the end of the period, will have enough sugar, enough acids, enough color. So in my opinion, the viticulture in the last 10 years has been increased a lot, the quality of the grapes that we receive at the wineries. And then when you have a good product, when you have good grapes, when they arrive to the winery, it's easier to make good wine. And then having so much rain, having a modern viticulture, having a good ratio of yield per hectare, having the right maturation in terms of sugar, even on the reds, around in terms of alcohol, I am talking about 11.5 to 12. The wines, they are more elegant, more gentle, less tannic, less astringent. And another thing that changed on the winemaking was in terms of extraction. We are extracting less and less on the wines and preserving what we are getting into the winery in terms of fruit. That's what I would say. But the big point, the big thing that changed in the last 10 years, I would say that was the viticulture.
What's driving the change?
The consumer is looking for lighter reds, easier red wines to have. I'm talking about the reds. Very aromatic reds, less oaky reds, less alcoholic reds, more fresh, like I said in the beginning, and you can have all of this in the Vinho Verde region in a natural way. So the big question was to work on the viticulture to avoid the disease that we can have because it rains a lot, and managing well the canopy. This is crucial in terms of viticulture, and not only Aveleda, but the majority of the other producers are managing better the viticulture and looking for more modern red wines.
I would also think that the heat units that they are getting now would also play a part.
Oh, see, the riper fruit.
Yeah.
You know, but it's wild because, and Michael, I hate that I'm doing this to you because, first off, I didn't bring back any red Vinho Verde with me, so that should tell you a lot about what I tasted and liked when I was in the region. I'm still more excited to taste the whites over the reds.
I would say so am I.
But the red wines I tasted weren't cooked. You know, like, even though they are likely getting riper, it's just like I think we may be getting to a position where perhaps the wines were just not ripe, and now they're getting to the correct ripeness.
And that's what I was trying to get to, is that I remember also tasting red wines while I was there, and I also thought they were relatively thin, too acidic. They lacked any kind of body to them, and I was like, this is not the place for it.
Yeah,
and you know, maybe now because, you know, I hate to say it, but sometimes global warming or climate change is going to benefit some and be a distraction for others.
Yes.
And in a place like Vinho Verde, it's going to benefit reds.
Yes, I think that's a absolutely safe hypothesis. And, you know, who knows? Like, maybe when we do a bit of a follow-up, we should see what red Vinho Verde we can get our hands on to do a bit of a profile. But, you know, when we're talking about global trends, because we're talking about global trends with people preferring lighter red wines, people preferring wines with less oak, one thing that Vinho Verde has in its, I think, advantage, because this is something we've talked about when we just tasted Armenian wine, and you and I were both super excited to do that, is wine regions that are working on rediscovering their heritage, working with indigenous grapes, rediscovering indigenous grapes. And to hear Diogo talk about an improvement in viticulture, to see the marriage of modern technology and modern viticultural practices being applied to indigenous grapes, is something that I find very exciting, because now you get to take, you know, what amounts to, like, when you drive through the countryside of Portugal, you see everyone with a pergola in their backyard covered with grapes. And every Portuguese family that I've ever met in Canada tell the story of aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, dad making wine in their garage. Like, winemaking is a part of their culture for the family thing, but to see progress being made to push the quality higher and having that applied to indigenous grapes is something where who knows what the next Chardonnay will be. Like, maybe it will be Loureiro.
I'd like to believe that, but Chardonnay will always be Chardonnay.
Let's hear what Diogo had to say about working with the indigenous varieties.
We are a small country, but even so, we have 14 different wine regions, and all the wine regions are different. in my example, in what we do in Aveleda, for example, we own four different wineries in four different regions. In the Algarve, we have a blend of indigenous grape varieties with international grape varieties. In the Bairrada, we only have indigenous grape varieties. In the Douro, we only have indigenous grape varieties. In the Vinho Verde, we only have indigenous grape varieties. But other regions, other wine regions, like Alentejo, like Tejo, like Lisbon, they have indigenous with international. So it's not a question of wine regions, but it's also a question of what the producer wants to have and what he is willing to compete in terms of internationally. In Aveleda, we believe that in our terroir, the Portuguese grapes adapt better, and then in terms of winemaking, we can offer something different for the consumer, for the people, for our guests that are coming to Aveleda, and we believe that we can make better wines with our own grape varieties.
I love how he ended that question, just talking about how he feels fortunate to be working with the indigenous varieties. But one thing that I really picked up on when he was talking is it sounds like Diogo feels fortunate to be working for a larger operation because you have the ability to literally have a research and development section and department of your winemaking to experiment with whatever it is, you know, your company feels might be of good potential. I guess as a winemaker and viticulturalist, you know, if you take a look at a soil sample, and like you said, with the changing climate, if you want to plant Chardonnay in the granite soils of Vinho Verde, maybe that's something they would like to experiment with.
It was something that we learned when we did the Trias podcast with all the winemakers, and Emma said, you know, she was part of the R&D team.
Yeah.
And we were like, we didn't even know you guys had an R&D team. And she's like, yeah, we did.
You know, I think it's just one thing, like, we're as consumers and as wine writers, like, you know, I know you and I, like, and I stand by this. I still think Yellowtail makes terrible wine and should be ashamed of themselves. But just because you have a larger operation does not mean by default that the wines are going to be bad. And that large wineries, what you have is that potential to do that barrel selection and to really get the cream of the crop at the top.
Where I would agree with you on Yellowtail to an extent. I do still have a bottle, and we should bring it and just do a live tasting of the Reserve. I've had 2 bottles of their Reserve, and surprisingly, they are a really nice wine. And you would not go, oh, that's a Yellowtail. You'd go, that's a lovely wine.
Yeah, but how long ago did they make that? And do they still make it?
They still make it, from what I understand. From like every winery has an entry level, and then, you know, they go up from there. As you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we have a monopoly that doesn't look further than entry level.
Because it's about making sales on volume, yeah. Yeah, you know, that's a complete fair point. So I did this interview a little bit backwards, but I thought it was more important that we got a bit of a background on the region, on what's going on the progress being made in terms of the winemaking before we get to Diogo, because I love my chat with him. Like I think we're going to put it on patreon.com, the full unedited interview, because I'm not going to lie. You guys have all heard me on this podcast long enough to know that when I have a connection with a place, I throw my own stories to go back and forth, and I figured you guys didn't need to hear that. But if you want to hear it, go behind the paywall, support us on Patreon. You can listen to my full chat with Diogo. But obviously I had to get his background. How did he become a winemaker? How did he come to Aveleda?
I studied in the north of Portugal, in the University of Vila Real, which is a nice town 2 hours away from Oporto. I did my winemaking course over there. Then I had the chance to go to Australia and to New Zealand, where I did 3 vintages. So I had the lucky in 1 year to make 2 vintages per year, because we are talking about South Hemisphere and North Hemisphere. So in Australia, the vintage is from January until March. And then in Portugal, it's from August until the end of October, more or less. So I did that for 3 years. And then I started working in a family, in the winery in the Tejo, where I stayed for nearly 18 years, working in Tejo and Alentejo, so 2 wine regions that I know very well. And then one day I received a phone call from Antonio Guedes, one of the co-CEOs of the Aveleda, asking if I was interested to have a breakfast or a coffee or a lunch with him. And I said, yes, why not? And let's see what will end up. So I had an invitation to see if I would like to come and join the team of Aveleda with the Guedes family. And I said, yes, why not? So I moved in 2022 to Oporto, where I love to live in Oporto. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. And I'm based here in Penafiel, where the headquarters of Aveleda Group is based. So we are, I would say, 25 minutes away from Oporto, in the town called Penafiel. And I joined so now I'm actually the chief winemaker of all the group. Of course, I'm not doing it by myself. I have a wonderful team. I have winemakers spread a little bit from all over Portugal in charge of all the wineries. And I also have, since 2 years ago, what we call the innovation department. So I'm in charge of the winemaking department and the innovation department. So I joined here in 2022.
Now, I talk a lot more about what he's doing at Aveleda, and this is condensed for the purpose of this episode. But he talked a little bit about what it was actually like making wine, what a harvest looks like for him, which I thought was really cool.
I am very lucky to work here and to work with this old portfolio of grapes, of viticulture, of dates. For example, in the Algarve, we normally start vintage in the end of July. In the Vinho Verde, I start vintage in the middle of August. In Bairrada, I start vintage on the second week of September. In Douro, on the third week of August. And at the same, I make from the middle of July until the end of October, I'll make almost 15,000 kilometers by car, going in all the wine regions and tasting and see. And the wine regions, they are different. The juice after pressing in the Vinho Verde is completely different of a juice after pressing in the Algarve. And it's amazing because the terroir is different, the soil is different. Even if you use the same yeast, even if you pick with the same Beaumet, the juice is different, the wine is different, and the final product will be different, even if the winemaker is the same. So it's incredible because you can play and you can have fun at the same time as a winemaker to see and to understand what the soil and what the plant is giving to you.
It's another situation where I feel like as someone who's admitted to becoming more of a snob on this podcast, I need to check myself before I wreck myself. You can clearly hear Diogo's passion, and I love that, like, when you can quantify passion to work, to put 15,000 kilometers on your car, like when you're the head winemaker of a winery as large as Aveleda, I'm sure it probably isn't necessary for him to be present at every single ferment and every single harvest. You have people who work for you that take care of that, but to hear that commitment, I think it's a testament to what's in our glass.
Well, I think, if I heard correctly, he's been there 4 years.
Yeah.
He's still in a learning curve of what they're doing there as well. And so, yeah, if you're still in that learning, I bet you he gets 15 years and maybe he doesn't put 15,000 kilometers on the car. Maybe he only puts 10, right?
Hey, so here's the thing. We don't talk about this a lot on the podcast, but I'm definitely a car aficionado. I like going for long drives. Portugal is one of the most beautiful places on the planet I've ever driven, especially in the north. Winding roads that are well maintained, that are paved, that just hug right up to the hills, ups and downs, and you just, when you pass over the top of some of these hills, you just see some of the most beautiful scenery. I don't know if I were working for Aveleda, I don't know if I would get sick of that, seeing that for 15,000 kilometers every harvest.
No, I'm not saying he's going to get sick of it. I'm just saying he's going to go, you know what? I got a guy out there who's doing it well. I think I'm going to go south just to check things out. See if that drives a little bit nicer.
So obviously we had to get some history about the brand. This is not a sponsored podcast, but the wines were provided to us. This was pitched to us by some publicists that we really enjoy working with, and we got to let people know a little bit about Aveleda.
So the Aveleda belongs to the Guedes family. It's actually on the fifth generation, always on the same family. So the year of the foundation was on the 1870. Actually, we have nowadays nearly 200 people working. We are based in the Vinho Verde. We have 2 farms in the Douro, Quinta Val Dona Maria and Vinhas Sabor. So 2 farms in Douro, Cima Corgo and Douro Superior. We have another one in Bairrada and the Algarve. So like I said, we are operating in 4 different wine regions. In terms of sales, we export nearly 65% for 85 markets, more or less. 35% it's consumed in international markets. Our main markets is Brazil, USA, Germany, Canada, and France. So a lot of our wines are known for the Portuguese communities that live outside of Portugal. We own in all these regions nearly 600 hectares, more or less, of our own grapes.
We talked about the red wines earlier and how quickly the quality has improved, and the answer had to do with viticulture. And he talked to me a little bit more about how Aveleda is involved in the viticulture, not just with their own properties that they own, but with fruit that they purchase.
We own nearly 600 hectares of our own, and then it depends. Yes. And then that number, I don't know exactly because it's not on my part of viticulture, is not under my supervision. But I would say that we have nearly 50 club members, and each of them owns 20 hectares or 25 or 30. But then what happens is the viticulture department, together with the owner of the grapes, it helps them when to spray, how to spray, when to prune, how to prune, when to pick, so we can, I would say, more or less high control of all the fruit that we receive.
Sounds a little bit like Bill Redelmeyer at Southbrook, where one of the things that Bill's very proud of is how many farmers he's convinced to go organic in their agriculture. But, it's even with the ADX Wine Company, we work closely with the Wilms family to make sure that the viticulture is being done for the record, I don't tell anyone how to grow their grapes, but Adam and Vadim, the other 2 partners in the company, know quite a bit about what they want out of the vineyards. And having that sort of control and having guidance from a company with a lot of resources is not a bad thing.
But I think organic and sustainable are kind of the norm these days.
Yeah, I mean, these are not organic wines. I was just bringing in Bill to talk about more of the fact that you have a winery in Niagara who buys fruit and is active in the viticulture. So even though they don't own the vineyards, it's about building that quality control mechanism into your supply chain, as opposed to, a truck of fruit shows up and you make wine with it without any regard to what's gone on. And I think this is actually kind of a nice segment when we're talking about quality control. We talked about red wine, trends in red wine. We talked about indigenous grapes in terms of global trends and where things are heading. You didn't think I was going to have a conversation with a winemaker at a large brand without talking about premiumization, did you?
It's not only for the Vinho Verde region, but I would say for all the regions, when you are willing to pay more than 25 or 30 years or 45, you are expecting a wine that is giving you some history, some traditional, and good quality, of course. Vinho Verde is known for making wonderful whites, reds and rosés that we already spoke, but Vinho Verde is a difficult path to bring higher, I would say not higher quality wines, because it's not difficult, but increasing the prices sometimes it's difficult, and some of the consumers are not yet ready to spend a lot of money or an average kind of quantity of money in the Vinho Verde high premium wines, because they think that Vinho Verde is a style of wine. and we are proud of the style of the Vinho Verde, which some of them are 9.5 alcohol with a little bit of CO2, and this is one of the wines that we make in the Vinho Verde. And you were on the contest in 2027.
And just to interject, and those can be quality wines just because they're only 5, 6, 7 euros in Portugal. They're still quality wines. Are they cerebral wines? Are they wines that are going to make you think? Probably not. But if it's a hot day and you're on a back patio, are you going to enjoy these wines way more than necessarily opening up, a high-end wine that's seen some oak, seen some age, seen some time? No, you don't want to think about it. You want something that's tasty, clean, no faults, easy to drink, goes good with food. Anyways, I continue.
So once again, I think that not only Aveleda, but more wine producers of the Vinho Verde are doing a great job with more and more premium wines in terms of style, in terms of skin contact, in terms of other new techniques, and we are improving the quality of the Vinho Verde. Because when we talk about other wineries, for me as a winemaker and for me as a Aveleda, it's also important, and you spoke about Anselmo Mendes several times. It's important, for example, that if you drink a wine from Anselmo Mendes, a very good quality wine, and you become impressed with that wine, and in the day after you go to another restaurant, you don't find Anselmo Mendes in that restaurant, but you find Aveleda. You never tasted Aveleda. But if you enjoy the Anselmo, and if you have Aveleda, and if you enjoy it again, this is good for Portugal. This is good for Vinho Verde region. If we have more and more better wines, it will be better for the region. And we believe in that.
I know I made the point there. I actually love the fact that we're recording this on a hot day in my backyard. And we did this with 2 bottles of $14.95 Vinho Verde. And the fun thing is, you and I have taken turns passing them to each other to be like, oh, I like this one better. Oh, no, I like that one better. So the ones that we've got is the Loureiro and Alvarinho, which is a blend of the 2 grapes.
And this one is just the straight Loureiro.
That is correct. Before we are getting to the tasting part of this. And I also love that we talked about the more cerebral wines because we have 3 that are those wines that are made to make you think, and I'm excited to get to them. So just as a note, let's talk about the Loureiro first. Diogo, you're going to introduce the Loureiro. Loureiro is Vinho Verde's most planted grape.
So Loureiro, I would say you should start with Loureiro 25. Loureiro, it's one of the grapes that we are betting a lot in the Vinho Verde region. It's a very fruity, very aromatic, very intense, and very clean on the palate. These castas, the idea is to make, I would say, a commercial white wine, a wine that you become happy when you have it by the glass, and it's a wine that is increasing in terms of volume a lot. It's a dry wine, so residual sugar is less than 3 grams, and it's a wine from the vintage 25, which was a very good vintage in the region.
What did you think of the Loureiro?
Well, I can't talk about the other one quite yet.
No, you can't. We'll do it. Okay. Should I get Diogo to introduce the Loureiro and Alvarinho, and we do kind of like a comparative?
Yeah, I think that might be the better way to go about it.
All right, let's do that.
Then you should move to Loureiro-Alvarinho. It's a blend of 70% of Loureiro and 30% of Alvarinho. This is a wine that we've been selling quite a lot in terms of international markets. It has Alvarinho, so it helps for the consumer that never heard about Loureiro to buy it, because Alvarinho, the other grape I don't know very well, but let's see. And then it could be an open door for the 100% Loureiro. It's a wine here, it's a little bit, I would say, it's a little bit more serious than the 100% Loureiro, because it has a little bit of Alvarinho, but at the same time, it's in between the happiness and a little bit more serious.
I'm surprised that he said that the Loureiro and Alvarinho was more serious than the Loureiro, because to me, in terms of flavor profile, I find the Loureiro and Alvarinho, it's definitely happy. It's got a bit of
I love when he said it brings happiness, because there's I don't think in the time that we've been tasting both of these wines back and forth, talking occasionally about it.
Yeah.
Well, he talked.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of us went on an argumentative side about the whole
No.
thing. It was all happy.
No, but I mean, here's the thing: is like both of these wines, going to what I said earlier, not expensive, but extremely well made, clean wines. Are they the most complex wines on the planet? No. But we're sitting outside in the 30 degrees and enjoying the shit out of these.
Like, no, I'm not saying that we got half. There's half a bottle missing from the first one, and
yeah,
and,
we've
and a third of the bottle at least missing from the second.
Yeah.
And so I really like the Loureiro.
Yeah.
I liked it's clean. I love it. It's it's got clean lines. It's got great acidity. There's some nice minerality there. I've gone back and forth because I do like the blend as well.
Yep.
But
it's wild that only 30% of Alvarinho, like, it reminds me of when we're talking about right bank Bordeaux, how like 10% or 8% Cabernet Franc completely changes what the flavor profile is. And it's just the Loureiro is a little heavier, a little bit more like lilac-y in terms of its floral flavor profile, where like the Alvarinho brings this, like, I just picture like little potentillas, like just little yellow and white flowers that just like...
I think the Alvarinho kind of rounds it out. Like it takes a little bit of the edge. Like the Loureiro is linear, but linear in a really good way. Linear,
but here's the funny
minerality,
thing.
acidity.
But for me, I find that the Alvarinho adds a layer to the Loureiro, but I wouldn't say rounds it out, because I find the acids sharper with the Alvarinho. Like it hits the mid back palate in a way that the Loureiro didn't, where the Loureiro has like a little bit. I'd be curious if there's maybe a bit more malolactic fermentation on the Loureiro or something like that. I suspect these are probably all stainless steel or concrete made, and then
absolutely. But for $15 screw cap, the only thing we're missing is an ice bucket where we could just plunge these down, put the screw cap back on, plunge it into the ice, and go, hand me another one, and just the bottle would be dripping wet, but so cold. Oh, boy.
Boy, do we love summer, eh? Okay, it's time to get super nerdy, because this is something where, learning about wine is a lot. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast that probably aren't going to get this, do not despair. It will make sense at one point. But I'm just getting more of an understanding, Thomas, you're going to be proud of me, of like the dirt and the dirt where stuff is planted. And Diogo talked to me about granite versus schist, where most of Vinho Verde is planted on granite, which, I don't know, Michael, we become friends with this guy. You know what else grows great in granite? Gamay. We could see if maybe they'll plant a Gamay Vinho Verde. But anyways, let's let Diogo talk about granite versus schist. For those of you that this is very nerdy for, now is the part of the podcast where you go refill your glass of wine.
90% of the Vinho Verde region is grown in granitic soils. Only 10% of the wine region has schist, and we have the lucky to have Alvarinho in granitic and schist. And we decided in 2018 to make a trial with Alvarinho, schist and Alvarinho granitic, and bottle them. And the final result was very interesting, because you can have them by each other and you can see exactly how soil interfere in the Alvarinho in terms of fruitiness, in terms of mouthfeel. The schist is very aromatic, but at the same time very delicate, with very fresh and the medium light body. The opposite, the granitic is very tropical and with a full bodied, with a nice acidity. So two completely different Alvarinhos grown in two different soils, which is interesting in terms of a wine tasting, and also in terms of having them, drinking them.
Now we're going to move into the premium part of this, and this is a thank you to Aveleda for sending us some of the more rare bottles, I guess the upper tier.
So I don't think I've ever seen Vinho Verde under cork, unless I was in Vinho Verde.
Yeah,
like seeing them here in Ontario is like eye popping.
And I'm hoping, I see you already have an empty glass, because we tasted through a bit of the first one while we were listening to some of these clips, just to make sure we're keeping things going along in a timely way. And I'm still on my first glass. You finished that before me, so I'm thinking you dug it.
I really like this. So let's hear what Diogo has to say, and then I have some thoughts.
The Parcela do Convento, 100% Loureiro, and the Parcela do Roseral, 100% Alvarinho, like I said before. Here, the big difference between them is the grape variety. And the Roseral is the only wine that we have 10% of French oak. All the others, we do it stainless steel to show the potential of our grapes and the potential of our terroir.
Interesting. So why Alvarinho in oak as opposed to Loureiro?
Because Alvarinho is a little bit more austere grape. It's a grape that handles better oak than Loureiro. Loureiro is a grape variety that is very sensitive, and if you put the wine into barrels, suddenly the oak will be on the top of it, and we don't want that in the Loureiro. I want to preserve how Loureiro is, but Alvarinho can handle oak. So here we decide, in terms of winemaking, to have the Parcela do Convento as natural as possible to show the beautiful grapes that we grow there. In the Roseral, because the wine is a little bit more austere and a little bit bigger in the mouth, we decided to put it into a little bit of oak.
Okay, so I see what he's talking about with the oak component on the Alvarinho. Do I think it's taken well to the oak? Not 100%. It's a little reductive. It's nice. It's fresh. I love the nose on it, but I'm drinking that, but I want it really cold, and I will enjoy it. But the Loureiro,
Yeah.
which I understand is stainless steel batonnage, so obviously on lees. But
So-
is it a single vineyard? That's what it is. Parcela would be.
single parcel. So here's what we got on the back. Granite soils, west facing, so afternoon suns. Manual harvest with bunch selections, fermentation at low temperature in stainless steel tanks, followed by prolonged aging on fine lees with batonnage, bottle aging. So it's been in the bottle for a bit. But these aren't old wines. Like this is
24?
2024.
So I'm going to tell you, this Parcela, what is it called? Parcela what?
Parcela do Convento.
This is absolutely, I think, the most amazing Aveleda wine I've ever tried. And that's saying something, because there have been summers that I've gone Aveleda, with their just regular Loureiro and the blend is like just hitting all the right notes. Well, this is spectacular.
Let me throw like one even higher. Is when I went there, I visited two wineries that have strong reputations in Vinho Verde, and that's Anselmo Mendes and Vinho Afroche. And this is on par with what they're making. And when I go to Vinho Afroche, I'm going there to taste their Loureiro, because the Loureiro from Afroche is some of the best wine I've ever had. This reaches that level. This is a very exciting wine.
Tropicality, the nose just floral peach. It just immediately drew me in.
But it's got a subtlety to it as well.
On the palate, it is subtle, and the acidity is fantastic. It's not overly leesed, right? It's not like you take a Chardonnay and you shove a whole bunch of lees into it, and it tastes like it's been sitting in oak for a year. This is just fresh, lively. I'm digging this one completely. Like, I can't tell you how happy I am with this wine. Again, thank you to Aveleda for sending this one.
Okay, I'm going back to the Parcela di Roseral, which is the Alvarinho. Yeah, I was correct. The reduction has blown off on it fairly quickly, and it's more sunshiny. It's got that like more citrus. That's what I've been looking for. I keep thinking, because for me, like Alvarinho and Loureiro are both quite floral, but like well balanced floral. But there's just like in my head, it's just like why am I picturing yellow when I'm smelling the Alvarinho? It's just like no, there's more of a citrus, where the Loureiro is more like like you said, peaches, pears.
It reminds me of one of my notes from the rosé report, where I'm like, if you want to know what pink tastes like, this is it. So this is, I guess, for you. If you want to know what yellow tastes like, ta-da!
But it's not like a Corvette yellow. Like it's not like a Lamborghini yellow, like a really bright, obnoxious yellow. It's more of like a
subtle
soft yellow, like it's the golden hour. It's that where everything gets that everything or first thing in the morning when you get that like yellow tinge over everything and everything just looks really good.
Yeah, I'm just saying I really like the Loureiro. I'll go back to the Alvarinho shortly, but
before we do,
for me, this Loureiro is just gorgeous.
We have one more wine to taste. This would be the icon wine of Aveleda. I'm looking at the front label. They only made 671 bottles of this in 2023. It's named for the founder of the Quinta, Manuel Pedro Guedes. Diogo, I'm really sorry. I'm doing Portuguese on Duolingo, and I know my pronunciations suck. So I apologize in advance for that. But you explain the wine to me. I'm going to play the clip for Michael, and we're going to taste it together.
Manuel Pedro Guedes, it's the name of our founder. It is a wine that we don't do it every year, only in the years that the team of the winemakers decided to launch it to the market. It is a blend of Loureiro and Alvarinho, more Alvarinho than Loureiro. But we decided which vintage you have. The 2000 and?
It's 2023.
23. It's the last that we bottled. It's a very powerful white wine with a little bit of oak also. We just gave it a small touch because we decided that it's a wine that easily can go under oak. It is a wine that normally depending, but if you want to decant the wine, you can do it. This is something that I've been learning a lot in the whites. There are people that decant only reds, but why not to decant whites? And it's something that I've been doing a lot. And I think you'll be very impressed with that wine.
Diogo, there is no way in hell I'm going to be decanting this wine. We tasted it while the clip was running. You know, this is my message to you. I hope you listen to this podcast, but you are very fortunate for the way this portfolio is structured, because the problem we have in Ontario is because we grow everything, we're always comparing ourselves to other regions. So when we get a really great Chardonnay, it's, oh, this tastes like Burgundy. Oh, this tastes like California. The cool thing about what's in our glass right now is this is a deeply complex, well-made, soft, round, juicy white wine that doesn't taste like anything I could compare it to. No. This is distinctly Portuguese. This is distinctly Vinho Verde, and I want to buy some.
I could not tell you what it, like if you said, what is it compared to? I'd be like, come over and try it. Like, it's, and I know that people
are so different than everything we've tasted, but it's so, I'm not going to lie, I was a little skeptical because of the bottle, beautiful presentation. It comes in a wooden box. It's covered in wax, which you can take it or leave it. But you know, I'm always a little skeptical. Like, are we getting? I referred to a Lamborghini earlier. Are we getting a Lamborghini or are we getting a Cybertruck?
It's, you know, I've tried it a couple times now. You know, there's almost a note of Alsatian Gewürztraminer in it, but not as sweet,
not as floral. But
you know, it's kind of that mouthfeel. So it's got like a piece of it, like an eighth of that in there. You know, it's because of the oak.
It's got a bit of Burgundy too.
It's got a little Burgundy, correct?
It's got the minerality.
It's got the oakiness to it. It's not overly oaky.
No,
there's a lot. There's so much complex. Like, you would have to probably, you know, take like a pie chart and break it into like 8 pieces and go, well, it's got a little bit of this, and maybe a little bit of that, and a little bit of this, and by that time, the bottle's gone. If you're parsing it that much, it's its own thing.
So this is definitely not going to be the last time we talk about Vinho Verde, and this is something where you know that I had a blast on that trip that I went with Anya in 2024. It's still one of the more affordable places in Europe to visit. The weather is great. We were there in November. I wore shorts for half the trip. It's definitely a Canadian in shorts kind of weather in November, though. We're talking like 10 to 15 degrees. The food is incredible. And I've said this, I'll say this to any Portuguese people, that when you visit Portugal, I feel like it's the closest you get to Canadian, the warmth that you get from the people. And this is no offense to my French friends, but the French, it takes a little bit for them to warm up to you. Where when you arrive at a Portuguese quinta, like they throw their arms open and welcome you with open arms. It's as close to being Canadian as I think you can get.
It's
in
like
Europe.
a Nova Scotia thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very good comparison. So I had to talk to him about visiting the estate. You and I, we've been talking about this. Any Bordelais who are listening to this podcast, take notes. When you go to the estates in Portugal, I left with a suitcase full of wine. And I am looking forward to going to Aveleda to do the exact same thing. And Diogo talked a bit about what it's like to visit the estate. And I'm excited because it's only 25 minutes from Porto, as opposed to the hour and change I had to drive to get to Anselmo Mendes. But Michael, I think we've got something to add to our bucket list here.
We are in the Penafiel, so it's 25 minutes driving. It has the most beautiful garden. I will not say in Portugal because I don't want to say this, but for sure one of the most beautiful gardens in Portugal. We have 1,000 and nearly 200 different trees. We have 319 more or less different species of flowers, of trees. It's beautiful. So all of you are very welcome. We receive per year more or less 35,000 people. So we are very famous for our wine tastings, our gardens. You can do picnics in the garden. So it's something that is a little bit unique. Once again, because in this region we have so much rain during the winter that all the gardens are natural, and it's almost easy to have gardens. It's not so easy to maintain them, but we are proud of our gardens, and we are very proud to receive customers and clients and friends in our Aveleda estate.
It sounds beautiful, like gardens, and if you think about it, if you're sitting in a garden, hot summer day, what more would you want? Yeah,
I mean, that's literally what we're doing right now. Granted, my garden is
mostly hot peppers and basil, but other than that,
hey, there's some tarragon and oregano there too.
Yeah, but there's one here that's turning yellow. You better either do something about it or I don't know. Anyway, but I mean, that's the kind of place that you're going to be enjoying these wines. All you need is a little bit of shrimp showing up. Any kind of seafood that would show up right now would be very welcome.
Percebs.
And, and I know everybody goes, oh, well, cheese would be nice. I don't know. Cheese would probably just dampen these wines. I wouldn't put cheese in.
Okay, so there's a shop in Hamilton called Alves. It's a Portuguese shop, and that's where I go when I need to buy steak because I like cooking Portuguese. I have, as we mentioned, fallen in love with the culture. Portuguese cheese is a lot milder than at least the cheese that you get there. You can get some really mild Portuguese cheese. I think.
Then maybe.
I think that would be fine, but I'm only doing this to be obtuse. I think seafood is the right answer.
Yeah.
Fresh seafood,
salads,
stuff without a lot of seasoning. Have you ever had clams and chorizo? Or chorizo?
Chorizo is usually spicy, so I'm out on the chorizo.
You know what? I will make that for you, and I will find you mild chorizo to do it because it's one of the most amazing dishes because you get your sausage, you get your clams.
I think when I mentioned that big huge dish of seafood, I believe there was some meat in there. I may have asked one of my hosts, is this spicy? And he goes, just eat. So I did.
Thank you to Chloe and Camila for helping facilitate the interview. Thank you to Diogo for the time. Thank you to Aveleda for the wines. These have been a real treat to taste. One final question to you before we wrap, Michael, is for these, I guess, higher-end wines, do you think the premiumization of Vinho Verde is something worth exploring?
Absolutely. I'd love to know the price on these. I would be surprised if we know. I can talk long enough for you to look it up if you want.
Looking it up.
We can do that. But, I mean, if they are $25, $30, well worth it. Well worth it.
All right. So the Manuel Pedro Guedes is $121 on Wine Searcher average. Okay, so here's the thing is there's only 2 listings. It's either $85.99 or $120. $85, I would spend that.
Think about it. I
would spend that to put in the cellar, like one bottle. Like, this is not something I'd buy a case of. I'm a little disappointed it costs that much.
I would be surprised you could buy a case of it. That's 671 bottles a year, right? So I think maybe they only sell it by the single bottle.
Let's take a look at the Parcela from Galleon, which is the premium branch of Danderand. $48.90 a bottle.
Okay, so I was a little bit under. I don't know where you were on those.
It's kind of spot on with what I thought these would be worth. But this is another reason why we should go visit the estate, because I guarantee you these wines don't cost that much there.
I do not think so either. I'd like, again, if you're going to Portugal, stop by Aveleda. Don't, as we mentioned, the LCB only brings in the Loureiro and the Loureiro-Alvarinho, and that's it. And if that's all you're going to judge this winery by, you're really underselling this.
I'm going to take the counter argument and say you're selling it exactly how they should. I think we're dealing with like a Honda Acura situation here. The Aveleda Loureiro and Loureiro-Alvarinho is a Honda Civic. No one can dispute with me that that's not a well-made car, but if you're looking for a little bit of spice in your life, like we've got an Acura NSX sitting over here with the keys ready for you to take a test drive.
As I was saying, if that's all you think of Aveleda as, is just those 2 wines, you're selling yourself short.
Oh, geez, we agreed with each other.
Yeah, we did, in a backwards kind of way.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Andre Prue, AndreWineReview.ca, at Andre Wine Review on social media, and take us away, Michael.
You've already done the Patreon thing, so please look us up on
you
Patreon.
Should hear my whole chat with Diogo. I really, really enjoyed the chat with him. I'm sorry you weren't able to make it, Michael, but I did the best I could without you there.
I think you did a great job. So I want to thank you for taking the reins on this one. You did a great job. I'm Michael Pinkus of michaelpinkuswinereview.com. You can find me as the Grape Guy on most social media, Michael Pinkus on some other ones. And you know what? I think because it's getting into that dusky hour, but still warm, it's going to be the first time we finish all 5 bottles. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Adam Duran and Ken Little.